right, welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. This is episode number 125. Wow, 125
I know.
of this new, the new format. Let me just
Yeah.
put me on do not disturb. Um,
Okay.
okay, I'm all set. So episode 125. Welcome back, everybody. As always, I'm joined with Heather. I'm joined by Heather.
Hello.
I am a former English teacher, so whenever I make mistakes like that, it hurts double hard. Um, but either way, I'm joined by Heather. It's good to have you here. Um, and today it is your turn in the rotation to talk about a bit. Well, I'll give you the keys and you can take us away.
Okay, well, today we're talking about the Midnight Ghost Train, and they're from Kansas. And for some reason, I thought they were from New Orleans or Louisiana. I thought they were from Louisiana, but after looking at their Instagram and looking through all their posts, one of their band members is from Louisiana. So that kind of makes sense. So, but this band, I thought that they had, after their latest, they retired, and for some reason, I kept following them on, social media, and they started posting again, like about playing shows, and I'm like, well, this is the perfect opportunity to talk about them. So their last album, it was in 2017, and I'm not sure exactly when they retired, but I believe it was after that album was released. And they're starting to play shows again, and it sounds like they're starting to write some new music. So possibly another album might be coming. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. Um, I think I heard about them when I think I saw people posting about their album on social media. And when it was released, I think that's when I first heard about them. And I was so intrigued by their band name and also by the album art that they have on their previous albums. Their album Buffalo is a woman with long hair just standing in a field. And then their album Cold as the Ground, it's a black and white and a picture of a man, and then like an old dilapidated house behind him, and just the expression on his face. I was just so intrigued by that and so intrigued by the band name and just everything. So I think that's the reason that I started to listen to them. I had a hard time at first because the singer's vocals are very different than anything that I'm used to. I'm used to most of the music I listen to has really clean vocals. Um, the this it has a bluesy element to it that I really like, and I think that's what kept me listening to it, was that bluesy, that just pulled me in. Even though the vocals are really, really gruff, but that bluesy element, really, I just wanted to keep listening because of that. And it took me a while to get used to it. But once I did get used to it, because it was just so different than anything that I've ever listened to before. Once I got used to it, I was like, this is really good. And I really like this. There's just something about it. And I wanted to listen to it more. I like that dirty blues element that it has. There's a raw energy that it has. It's like brutal and beautiful all at the same time. Their last album, Cypress Avenue, it's more polished, and it's not as raw, and the blues element of it, I think, comes through a lot more than their previous albums. And that's the thing that I really liked about it. So that's the thing about Cypress Avenue, which I think is the album that I like the most. And I think it's because of that bluesy element that it has. It's still got that edge to it, and it's got that grit to it that I really like that element to it. And I'm gonna wait patiently and hope that they do release new music, because now I'm really curious about what it's going to sound like, because when it comes to this band and the music that they put out, it's definitely going to keep you guessing.
Yeah, well said. It is, the this band, I feel like they have, you could describe them as sort of bluesy stoner rock, like heavy blues stoner rock, but there is more going on to it. They're not so formulaic that describes them well. And like you, when you said who we'd be listening to, my first thought was, well, what is the name? What is is there a Midnight Ghost Train? So I tried to think of what it could be in reference to, or what it might mean. And my first thought was, the song "Midnight Train to Georgia," which I read was actually a song written by this guy Jim Weatherly that was called "Midnight Plane to Houston." The original song is called "Midnight Plane to Houston," and then I guess a producer wanted someone else to record it and asked, could we change the title to "Midnight Train to Georgia"? And Weatherly was like, that's fine, just don't change any of the other lyrics. So originally it's "Midnight Plane to Houston," and that became "Midnight Train to Georgia." The other thing I was thinking about is the book and the film Midnight Express, which was about a guy who spends time in a Turkish prison. And I believe Midnight Express is slang for escaping from prison. We need to hitch a ride on the Midnight Express. There is also a professional wrestling duo who've had different members throughout the years, but the moniker, the Midnight Express, and my favorite iteration, the people who I used to watch were a guy named Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton, who went by the nicknames Beautiful Bobby and Sweet Stan. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with the band Midnight Ghost Train, but this is just, I'm way out in the stratosphere right now trying to figure out what the name could be. The other thing is there's a Clive Barker short story that became a movie called Midnight Meat Train. And anytime I've spoken to you before we started recording this about Midnight Ghost Train, I would somehow call the Midnight Meat Train. So if you want to play a drinking game while this is going on, you can drink, do a shot every time I say Midnight Meat Train accidentally. So those could either count or not towards your imbibing. It's up to you. There's also an episode of Rick and Morty where there's a character named Alan Rails who can summon ghost trains. That's his superpower. It has nothing to do with midnight, but that's the closest I found to Ghost Train. Now, I believe on Wikipedia that the band was either named after a friend of someone who'd passed away, like it was in that it had to do with that. So I'm not sure whether or not Midnight Ghost Train has to do with, the death of a close friend, or if it just, was a reminder of something that maybe they knew about. But I will never stop trying to figure, like with Murloc, I will never give up on trying to figure out what this band name might mean. Um, and it is definitely stoner heavy blues, which I appreciated. And when I was on Bandcamp, there was someone who wrote about all their albums that so I listened to Cold Was the Ground and Cypress Avenue, and there's a person named the Midnight Toker who described uh, Cold as the Ground as Midwest stoner rock with a clutch type groove and gravel vocals like Tom Waits. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty accurate description. Um, and yeah, I kept trying to think like, okay, the I'm trying to place like where I've heard something like this before, because it is unique, and it fits the music really well. Like going into it, when I first heard it, I had the same reaction you did. Like, well, I like a clean vocal, but sometimes a harsh vocal goes with the music. Um, like I wouldn't want to listen to Weed Eater with a different vocal. The music, the delivery suits that music. Um, and I really dug the track um, Straight to the North off Cold Was the Ground. And I feel like the track Red Eyed Junkie Queen off Cypress Avenue, they're very similar. Like that's, if you want a good representation of what you're going to get from this band. And you're right. I feel like, and Midnight Toker thinks you're right too, because they write on Cypress Avenue. This is a lot more chill than the previous two releases. There is some growth and change in direction that some may not care for, but don't worry, they still drop the hammer on a few numbers, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
I think they do, it might be more nuanced, more polished, but the same vibe that makes them as good as they are is there on all the songs. Um, so I plan on revisiting them certainly. It's been a while since I found a good like stoner heavy blues that I really dig. Um, most of what I and we listen to is doom. More straight up traditional doom. So it's nice to venture out. Um,
Yeah.
of course, there's some space rock psychedelic stuff that I've come to learn about that I really dig too. But it's nice to kind of vary the playlist a little bit. So, and yeah, I'm gonna throw Midnight Ghost Train on the rotation.
Yeah. Good.
And I'm proud of myself because I haven't said Midnight Meat Train, you know, except just now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I was hoping, and I looked on Urban Dictionary too, just in case like perhaps it was there. And there's nothing. There are a lot of train related things, but it's all like pornographic and stuff that has nothing. Like it wouldn't even translate to like when they had Sam Squanch as one of the words, being from Trailer Park Boys, and I was like, oh well, this is at least funny. Um, but yeah, it was like all the train related stuff. I was like, yeah, this is just gross. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so yeah, I have no idea what Midnight Ghost Train mean. If it means anything, it might just be a cool. It might just be a cool. This reminds me of MC Escher, who I think I may have told this story on the show, but MC Escher was an artist um, who does a lot of really cool. Like he has the drawing of the two hands drawing each other. They're like flipped. Are you familiar with that? And then there's the staircases that. So anyway, his son came to speak at my school, and he showed us a slide of a writing desk with like a clock on it and a skull and these little mini alligators. And the mini alligators weren't real, but everything else on the desk was. And he said that people come up to him all the time and ask about what the symbolism is. Like, what's the symbolism of the clock? Does it mean we're running out of time? And he said, no, that was just my father's desk. Like, those were the things on his desk. So part of me is like, maybe Midnight Ghost Train doesn't mean anything. Maybe it's just a cool name. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And I'm projecting all of my symbolism onto it. But
Yeah.
either way, I'm glad you suggested this group. It was a nice change of pace.
Yeah. Something completely different.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It did. Yeah.
And
Way
I hope,
out, kind of way outside of, because like you said, what we talk about a lot is doom and like the psychedelic side of stoner rock, space
yeah,
rock, and this is like way outside of that. But it's kind of
absolutely.
fun. It's kind
Oh,
of
sure.
fun discovering different, things that are just so different and fun to talk about and listen to things that are different.
Yeah.
And
Well,
there's
like you,
just,
I hope they make more music.
I do too, because when you go from the album Cold to Ground and then you go to Cypress Avenue and the different, the different styles and the different way that the songs are laid out, now I'm really curious.
Yeah.
like like what is this new stuff going to sound like,
Yeah. Well,
so
hopefully our questions will be answered.
yeah, yeah.
So
And I guess they're lining up shows. They want to play shows in Europe and the United States.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
and
this is a,
being from Kansas, I wonder if they have crossed paths with They Watch Us from the Moon, which is another
oh
band that's
yeah,
from Kansas. So
yeah,
we'll see. I know
yeah,
it's a big place, but I'm wondering if the metal scene is small enough that people know each other. So,
yeah. That would be interesting to find out.
but no, this was a great pick. I'm really glad you put it on the calendar.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So,
So I'm glad that you liked them.
oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
plan on revisiting some of their, because I only listened to two of their albums, and they've
yeah,
got a few more. So
yeah, yeah,
cool. All right. Well, we will be back next week. It'll be my turn, and we'll see what's up. But thank you, Heather.
yeah.
Have a great day. Have a great
Thank
day,
you.
everyone.
See you next week.
See you next week.